전체적으로 인사드리겠습니다. 부모님께 경배!
바로
경배!
바로
프리스타일. 되어 있습니다. 전체 203명 모였습니다. 저 선교사하고 국가대표하고 스테이트 리더하고 그 다음에 이제 일본손 해피월드하고 그랬습니다. 모이니까 잘
어떤 저 랠리 하는 거
How do you feel about the rally?
Very good.
지금 기독교 여러분이 아다시피 진짜 기독교가 많지만은 기독교는 사회 활동할 줄 모르지.
As you know, there are many Christian groups and Christians in this country and the world. But they basically do not know for social action, the act socially.
이게 전체 이거 나라 이런 관심을 갖고 있지 않다. 그들은 신앙에 봤을 때 지상에 대한 관심을 떠나가지고 영적인 세계만 추구하기 때문에 자연에 관심이 없고.
First of all, they are not interested in doing that. They are not interested in acting socially. And this is primarily because their belief has been formulated and maintained and crucified that it's heaven that they are concerned about, not so much of earth. Earth, this is not their concern. Spiritually, the spirituality is their primary concern and not the physical substance.
저와 같이 움직였던 사실은 역사적 사건이라고 우리가 알았다고.
So as a matter of fact, as may have seen, but the fact that religious group has gotten to that much of a interaction and act social with a social meaning, it's almost it is a miracle itself.
이제 앞으로 저 사람들이 그냥 그대로 움직여만도 누가 리드하느냐, 누가 선두에서 끌고 가느냐 하는 게 중요합니다.
And as it become obvious by now, we can't let that stand as it is. The question from now on, the big question is who is going to lead that into the rightful goal.
그런 입장에서 볼 때 우리 통일교는 뭐 여러 가지 랠리라든가 세계적으로 활동하면서 이 조직 활동에 훈련을 되고 대사회에 대해서 민첩한 움직임을 가질 수 있는 훈련을 지냈던 것이 물론 통일교회 활동을 위해서 했다고 보지만은 전 종교계를 대표한 기독교가 그모의 이와 같은 중요한 역사적 차원에 이와 있는 이 시점에서 이 전체 앞에 영향 주게 한 하나의 훈련을 하나를 시킨 것이 아니냐 하는 생각입니다.
Look at ourselves on the contrast that we have been motivated, we have been trained, educated in a various way of activity like we have been engaged in the past years. And now we come to think that we feel grateful even that we have been trained and experienced in such a versatile activities that this fits right into this very picture frame of today. And of course, unification, as a Unification Church member, we did that as a means of survival. And with a vision of Father, we have been trained with a wide variety of activity, which is different from ordinary religious being. But then now we come to believe, now we come to know that this is the real treasure.
기독교는 이제부터 통일교로부터 사회활동, 이 현세를 어떻게 섭리 세계로 전개시키냐 하는 노력을 해오는 통일교가 어차피 선두에 지금까지 서 있다고 보는 거고 기성교회에서는 그걸 모른다고 그래 우리가 가르쳐줘야 된다 하는 것을 여러분 저 사람들 그런 사람들 가르쳐줘야 되겠다. 끌고 가야 된다. 기관차의 사명을 하지 않으면 안 된다 하는 것을 여러분이 알아야 된다고.
So in one word, you already sensed, but we must know clearly now at this point that we cannot leave the religious people such as them, like that. They need somebody to pull them through with the vision and with all the power. That somebody must act as a locomotive. In fact, all of us must act as a locomotive to pull that great big train.
자, 그런 의미에서는 오늘 저 같은 지금 비디오 영화 지금 것을 보는 여러분들 새삼스럽게 결의하지 않으면 되지 않을까.
So without much words necessary, we must feel by insight and determine ourselves. Yes, in the future, what I must do. Each and every one of us must feel individually.
선생님은 그간 2년 동안 이제 2년 동안에 재판을 하면서 반드시 이런 때를 중심 삼고 우리가 대처할 수 있는 준비를 쭉 여러분들 생활처럼 면을 준비해 나가다.
Through much our unawareness, Father has been planning for this day. In the event the court case will come this way and other ways, Father had to prepare for all possibilities.
자, 여러분들이 모르지만 저 사람들이 저렇게 움직였던 데는 사실 여러분들이 모르는 배후에 하나를 중심 삼고 우리가 노력한 그런 길이 거기에 연결되어 있고
We also might as well be aware that the fact that the religious people moved such as they did there, behind that was the results of the efforts all of the Unification Church members put in until now without their knowing. But this is very well connected in the will of God and in the God's approval. It's God's way of rewarding to us.
그러니 종교 자유의 민족들의 정부가 쌓아야 되고 자유세계의 정부 대표는 자유세계 대표 나라인데 우리 그렇게 되면 한 나라 그 영을 다 받는다고. 이래서 이제 이런 종교문제를 사고 무슨 법안이 나오냐 하면 종교에 대한 규제를 위한 법안, 세금이라든가 교육 문제라든가 이런 것을 구상한다고 보기 때문에 이런 문제가 나오기 전에 휩쓸어 버리지 않으면 되지 않느냐 이렇게 보는 거예요.
The Father has expected this day to happen very much. In that, America is representing country of the free world. Of course, America is the last of the free world on the face of the earth. And when America, this time, when the things developed as such as that, then the government will certainly try to enact a certain law by which they try to control or limit some of the religious activities, namely the tax laws, for instance. They will have the more rigid, even to the danger of going into the essence of religion. Father knew that this would come. Largely because of the ignorance to the religion, yes, but nevertheless the result is the same.
여러분이 배하고 있는 이 리버럴한 계통이 지금까지 끈질기게 침투돼서 요구한다는 거 아닙니까?
And also we can see very clearly behind this, behind all the governmental tendency to act, the way they have been acting, there is always a strong and consistent liberal tendencies and liberal the minds intentionally try to corner the religion and annihilate, to make the religion powerless.
리버럴한 이런 배후에는 반드시 소련의 세계 전략에 대한 KGB의 내용이 연결되어 있다고 보는 것이.
Also, in the general tone of liberalness is a general tone on which the KGB, the world strategy of communizing, is very subtly and well projected into.
여러분들 공산당들이 하는 법이 그렇다는 게 모든 원수가 있으면 원수를 직접적 파괴하는 것보다 사상적으로 무너뜨리고 그다음에 사상적으로서 이거 침투됨으로 말미암아 사상 기반을 중삼고 이것이 선진적이고 이거 진취적이기 때문에 과거에 대한 제도에 과거에 대한 제도, 어떤 나라면 나라, 미국을 중심으로 종교문화권을 중심으로 그것이 국가 기준이 되어 있으면 그 전통적 기준이 되는 사상적 기준을 어떻게 무너뜨리냐 하는 문제. 그러기 위해서는 그 사상이 가정과의 이 연결된 사회와 연결된 그런 연결체가 뭐냐면 가정이 있고 교회가 연결되어 있는 거예요. 그렇기 때문에 서론이 세계 전략적인 견지에 볼 때에 미국은 기독교 문화권인데 이것을 그러면서 자본주의 국가인데 이걸 없애기 위해서는 가정 파트너로부터 사상적 기준을 무너뜨려 나가면서 가정의 혼란, 교회의 혼란성을 어떻게 전개하는 것이 이것은 소련 공산당의 세계 이 민주 세계를 대한 전략적인 하나의 그 메인스트림 하나의 주라고 보여야 됩니다.
The typical way of communism working towards the world, in their effort to communize in the world, is first not directly attacking what they term as enemy, but rather they would go into the ideological approach. In other words, they make the ideology of the enemy, or the enemies in collectively a country, to crumble this, attack this ideologically and crumble their age-held the belief. And this they do in connection with the social standards of standards of ideology and the social even moray, the customs. Now we can understand this rather clearly. For instance, in America, this is essentially a Christian culture, and the Christian faith and Christian values and the significance, these ideological meanings, they will attack, making this weak in the first, and then let the people get away from it little by little, gradually, and then finally replace that with the what they would say is a substitute to the weak and not real the Christian beliefs. In that way, they do that. And of course, the building block of American faith and ideas, namely Christianity, is the family and the church. So the communist has been attacking
미국
the family and the church.
미국 교회라는 것이 기독교 문화. 미국 교회가 구시대를 반대한다는 것이 어디서 나오냐? 교회로 구시대, 구시대와 신시대. 남하는 사람과 젊은 사람이 이것이 하나 될 수 없다. 이렇게 부정적인 개념이 어디서 나오냐?
Now we see in America that there is an idea exists that this is an old age and this is a new age. In other words, old generations and the new generations. Where does the old timers and the new timers are? Where do they come from? Where?
이것은 변증법에서 왔다 보는 거예요.
And
두 대립적인 이 두 상부구조 하부구조가 투쟁해가지고 발전한다는 이런 변증적 법적 사상에서 근거해가지고 이런 형태가 나타났다는 것이 틀림없는 것입니다.
In the framework of theory, it derives from the dialectic thinking, dialectic materialism, that their basic thinking that it's upper structure and the lower structure and the conflict between them. Likewise, they apply this formula right into the generation and say new generation and old generation.
부모들은 전부 다 옛날에 이 구시대에서 가져가지고 고질된 그런 전통을 중심으로 전부 다 암놈들 발전가족에 막 있는 게 그들이 이런 딱 들이맞는 거예요. 그렇기 때문에 이것을 교파하야만 파괴하야만 새로운 세계를 발전한다 이런 거예요. 딱 들이맞는 거예요.
So communists will paraphrase, communists will interpret and say strongly that the old generation always try to fetter, to make objection to whatever the new generation want to do. These old generations are the ones who will surround them and stop them, discourage them. So the way of progressing is to deny them, shake loose from their interference. And in New Age, you got the whole new world all by yourself. This is the very communistic the way. Unfortunately, this is in conformity with the real situation. Therefore, it's rather convincing.
자, 그러면 그렇게 볼 때
Communists know that. This is
학교 가라, 교회 가라, 전부가 부정되는 거야. 학교 가라, 공부가 해서 뭘 하냐? 공부하려면 무슨 지금 구시대의 공부, 미국에 대한 제도라든가 미국에 대한 사회 전통적인 역사라는 거 전부 다 부정한다는 거야. 공부하려면 앞으로 새로운 시대에 애를 끌고 갈 수 있는 세계관이라든가 그 나라의 모든 구조라든가 이것이 필요하지 지금 시대에 필요 없다. 이런 면으로서 그 자연히 끌려는 것 같아요.
Very simple example is that in an ordinary life, one would say, namely communists,
Nowadays, parents say,
the parents will say, study, you see. And the communistic one will say, oh, why bother study? Why do you study that? You know, this belongs to the old age. This is obsolete. And this is not even true. So anything which is old or traditional, old held thought, is to be obsolete and eliminated. And there is a new one and the right one.
새로운 세계를 지도할 수 있는 일.
The new ideal which is fit to lead so-called new age. And this very, very perfectly fooled people.
그러려면 너희들이 싸워야 싸워 대항해서 그냥 안 온다. 싸워가지고 투쟁을 해가지고 승리권을 만들어야 청천한 그것이 변증법의 일이냐.
And they even go a step further. Whenever you feel uncomfortable, don't stay like that because nobody will bring forth this change. It is up to you. It is you who must go out and break all these old ties and traditions, and you must win that new by your own new effort. So what they mean is they will mean that physical, including physical violence.
그러면 자기 부모까지 원수시하고 말이야. 선생님들까지 원수시하고 폭력으로 지금 학교에 보게 된 점은 폭력으로 때려부수고 별의별로 다 버렸어.
This materialist communistic teaching is very clear. Their goal is, unmistakably, their goal is to train young people, to let the young people, lead the young people to think that their own parents are enemy. And they have to shatter this, break this into pieces. Then and only then, what they are going to do can be possible.
그래서 과격한
They deny parents, they deny teachers.
그런 환경에서 부모가 그것을 옳지 않다고 반대하면 과격한 행동하는 사람들은 집을 튀어나가가지고 전부 다 히피 돼가지고 폭력배가 돼가지고 말이야 갱스터가 돼가지고 이 사회를 때려부수는 행동적인 면에서 막 공격하는 이런 운동, 극렬한 운동이 미국에서 벌어진다는 사실이 놀라운 사실을 알아야 된다.
We see this much of the time that in America, the family, what it was once, now the children will rebel against the parents. The parents, of course, try to stop them.
강력히 반대하는 말이야.
Stop them with quite the strength because they know what child is about to go into the area of danger. So the parents, with their own conscience, try the best to stop this child for his own sake. But then this child, according to this new kind of a trend in thinking and teaching of communistic or the origin, he will just rebel against parents even by force, and they just run out of them and go join hippies and non-conformity. And the fact that this happens in America is really an incredible thing. But this is everywhere today.
그래서 이 히피라든가 이 깎데 없어요. 그다음에 폭력 갱스터가 돼가지고 전면적인 파괴운동.
So when
윤리적 문제 파괴, 그다음에 종교적 문제 파괴, 사회 제도적 문제 파괴. 그런 혼란상은 자동적으로 따르게 되죠.
So these young people come into these hippies and they go around the country traveling. Eventually they will end up, or eventually many of them will be tempted to join the group of violence. But with this violence, when this power becomes strong enough, then certainly they will be directed to destroy all the institutions of influence. Government offices, some strong churches, some conservative teachers in schools, for instance. And they're the first target for these young people to destroy by violence. Naturally, the number one enemy, the list in the list of enemy is conservatism. Conservatism, they will say, they will term that as the number one enemy. And they will generally encourage liberal trend. Saying liberal trend is our side. Saying that.
내용을 두고 볼 때, 지금까지 미국에서 이 사상적으로 이 신학교 볼 때 신이 죽었다. 이것이 제가 작은 것이 60년대 60년대 졸업반기를 중 삼아가지고 신의적 어떤 이런 신학을 주장하고 말이야. 혁명 신학을 주장하고 이런 것이 이것이 세계적인 신학계를 전부 다 휩쓸었다는 사실이 놀라운 거예요. 그것은 사실 세계적인 풍조가 돼가지고 내적으로 이것을 정리할 수 있는 기반이 될 수 있었기 때문에 가정적 파탄과 교육간의 공경 문제까지 도달했던 거예요.
So these kind of a change, gradual change in social changes take place kind of naturally. It's a trend of the history. So, like a theology, for instance, the trend in the theological studies discipline has been that the so-called liberal theology has merged and say God is dead, and all this liberation theology. Now, when the general climate comes to have them give a rise, then the intentional the communistic the strategy moves in to exploit this situation to 100% and making this goal happen the quickest and the most perfect way, such as the destruction of the family, the young people's general attitude towards authority. These things will be very cleverly instigated, very cleverly helped by the communistic actual effort.
지금 혁명 신학이 무엇이 정말 공산당이죠. 정치 신학 이건 뭐 참도 해가지고
like the revolution theology.
운동을 해야 되는 것이다.
This is very much hinted by communistic actual work.
노동자가 비난하는 사람 편이다. 그런 얘기죠. 그런 면에서 이것이 말이야 일반 풍조화됐다는 사실 여러분 알아야 된다고.
And they tie up with the actual group. Says, in order to propagate this, we have to first destroy such and such thing. And now they have been rather successful. In fact, so successful that it has been a general trend, a general thinking, without question. The one who will ask this question is out of fashion. I mean, he's just not up to par. The people will just laugh it off and does not even give it a second thought. This kind of a way they have brought.
보수주의적인 젊은 사람들이 이 리버럴한 학생들을 꼼짝 못하고 대학까지 다 휩쓸었고 언론계 자체가 완전히 휩쓸고 있다. 이런 모든 정상을 볼 때에 이것은 썰어놓으로 퍼진다면 이런 미굴대 해가지고는 싸우지 않고 근황 그대로 이것이 젊은 사람들 혹은 지하 조직 강화하면서 경제적으로 이런 면을 끌고 나가면 얼마 안 가서 자연이 망한다는 결론을 내립니다.
And this is not 1 year, 2 years working. Of communism has been working for long years since the onset. Now everything is kind of going in generally the likely direction. Generally the direction the communists feel very comfortable. So they feel now that if this situation be allowed, not drastically changed the other ways, just allowed, without you doing so much, without them doing so much, as time goes by, gradually and steadily, and surely this will get to the goal where the communist desires, destruction of all.
그러면서 젊은 사람의 행락을 중삼은 프리섹스라든가 이걸 중삼을까지 애편까지도 완전히 국민학교도 침투하게 됐다는 얘기야. 이렇게 될 때 이건 완전히 뭐 20년도 못 가네. 10년 미래만 이제 두고 보면 앞으로 미국이 들어갈 뻔한 소리입니다.
So trend of free sexes, for instance, is not deterred but encouraged, very indirectly, like the fashions of Hollywood or whatever. The young people just have a yen at that goal, and all things are directed into this, like a drugs. There is no ideological tendency to the trend to trying to stop this, namely conservative. The sort of a thinking, there is none. In fact, this is somehow cleverly and protected, and they encouraged and helped subtly. And then what happens is, if very soon we'll see this infiltrated into high school level drug, this hard cocaine, down to the middle school level, down to the grammar school level. At this rate, at this direction and trend and rate of progress, 10 years, America will be absolutely crumbled down.
로마가 나는 것이 그때 군사력이 없어서 경제의 힘이 없어서 정치 판도가 없어서 그런 것이 부패. 청소년들이 전부 다 행락주의에 흘러가버려 만 거예요.
And then final blow to finish that off. It's so clear we can see now. And Rome, for instance, in history, was destroyed not because of their lack of knowledge, lack of their moral values, lack of
군사력, 경제력,
the military power, economic power. These are all very real power, which is strong enough to sustain any society. It was not that, but we see corruption, the corrupt decay in the thought.
그때는 오늘 같이 이 애편은 많이 안 먹었다고 그러고.
We see that the difference then and now is perhaps the existence and lack of the drugs. At that time, we don't think that drug was there at that time.
먹는 사람 특정한 시설은 모르지만은 오늘날 이렇게까지 많이 안 됐어요.
Not epidemic as we see today anyway. But anything else, everything else was there. Free sexes, you name it.
이러한 모든 환경적 여건을 중상을 볼 때 여러분 교회에 있어서 젊은 사람 하나도 없다.
In this eye, in this view, there's no the real young person today in the church. There's no the normal.
그렇기 때문에 교회를 보면 무섭게 하는 거예요. 보사는 교회를 보면 무섭게 하는 거예요. 얘는 다 죽어 나빠진 구세통, 응? 썩어질 이 구세통, 구세통밖에 안 들어가죠. 구세, 썩어진 나무 말이야.
The communists today really not worry about the so-called churches in America. They say no matter how it might the powerful it might have been once, it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. It just is like a old, very old dead tree. What can a dead tree do?
깍대기만 살아있다. 깍대기만 좀 더 속은다.
And inside, it's corroded even faster, year after year. And the communists are not worried about it at all. Anything in America, they are very comfortable.
그러니까 이런 기반에 있어서 법적으로 그냥 그대로 전부 다 종교 문제에 자유화를 막아버리면 다 끝납니다. 그렇기 때문에 이번에 여러분 그렇잖아. 게이 무브먼트라든가 딴 모든 프리섹스 운동이라도 학교에서 할 수 있지만 날이 종교 활동만은 못한다고 이번에 법 통과시킨 데서 폐하지 않았어요. 그 마지막
Equal access.
And all it needs to be done is work right it up and enact a law which will prohibit, which will greatly discourage religious activity. That's all that needs to be done to finish it off in America. So, what does take actually place here in California, for instance? They are free to do gay movement activity or legalize gay movements. You can do almost any activity, but they stop religious activity in campuses, the college campus. Didn't they succeed that?
그것이 뭐예요?
So equal access in high school and middle school.
For high school and middle school, this case.
그건 마지막이에요.
You see, that's one of the deadliest, and that's one of the last effort the communists need to do. That is to make their goal.
이런 배우 환경의 영향이 안 미쳐지는 것 없다. 교육계, 혹은 정치계, 경제계, 법사계 전부 다 강력한 힘이 작용하는 거예요.
And this trend, we just took the example in the theological areas and the law enacting areas, but this permeates everywhere. This infiltrates everywhere, like you name it, anywhere. The economic, the society, like all the lawyers and the justice areas, the academia in all different fields of discipline in schools. The labor, of course, it's another extreme. All area, you just name it, all the consistent trends are there.
그것이 불가능에 가까운 압력을 통해서
And while they developed this naturally, someone really pushed it into the direction now, and we can very visibly see something in action. The examples of the equal the opportunity for these high schools and middle schools, and the things kind of like that. Everything is just choking the stopping of the exercise of religion, if you call it.
이렇게 볼 때 지금 기성교회가 기성종교가 이걸 누가 안 해?
Now,
그렇게 세상 흘러가는 것인 줄 알지 이러한 세계사적인 정상리 환경이 근황 그대로 됐다고 생각하지 배후에 이 전체 세계 정략적인 이런 견지에서 이렇게 만들어 나오는 보이지 않는 힘의 작용이 있다고 생각하는 사람 하나도 없다.
on the other side, on the other hand, looking at this situation and the phenomena and living in that situation and phenomena, what do the Christians make of? What do they think about this situation? At best they think, well, this is an inevitable trend of the history. How can one change the trend of the history? This is what so-called God meant. Maybe this is the end of the world and God will lift us up. At the best they will think that way. No one in their seriousness, in their serious mind, think this is so deadly consistent with the materialistic goal. Their goal, achieving goal is at hand. That means all the destruction of the free world and religion and denomination and Jesus and whatever. It's really on the verge of end. And there is a mastermind, both the ideology and the actual working, is invigorating, is making this trend happen and to get to the goal for sure. There is an intentional, organized effort being directed to that. Nobody thinks. No intellectual American thinks. In fact, this is a very, very, very the shortcomings of American thinking.
자, 여러분들이
They don't want to believe that.
이렇게 될 때까지는 서로는 여기 대비한 이런 계획 밑에서 이렇게 만들어 놨는데 미국은 아무 전부도 없이 이걸 다 생겨버렸다. 이것을 어떻게 대비할 수 있는 힘이 있을 수냐? 이제 군사력까지 해가지고 무슨 정치력까지 해가지고 과학의 힘 가지고 모든 것 가지고 사상적인 모든 종교적인 면에서 방문할 필요 없다. 그러니까 망하다. 생활에서는 망하지 않을 수밖에 없던 결론이 되었다 그래야 돼. 미국은 망할 수밖에 없다.
Communistic effort has been bringing step by step towards what is today. Now the people
they are making preparation long time.
they have been preparing for this, acting about this for a long time. And America, no one from top to bottom, no one ever realized this malicious intent. Perhaps because they don't have that malicious intent themselves. That doesn't justify. But
미국 망할 수밖에 없다.
America kept on swallowing that. America swallowed it, just as if they can cope anything. With that, how would you say, the utmost confidence or arrogance, whatever. With that, they just kept on swallowing, but then now they're on the verge of staggering reality that at this stage, there's no one not can do anything about this. And they are just aware and stunned. This is what they are. At best. At this point, they will look around where the remedy is. They try to find that to the Treasury Department. Sure, the money is there. There is a military. Sure, the military is there. They boast their superiority over the Russians. They will look and there are millions, hundreds of thousands of PhDs. Sure, you name it, answers come down. But we know that none of these is adequate because we already saw that in Roman time.
자, 그러니까 이때 이제 미국의 힘이 그때 전부가 자유를 원하는 거야. 그래서 공산당이 힘이 있다.
So what they reconcile now, what they compromise, not so religious people now say, well, it looks like there is a winner and there's a loser. I might as well join to the winner. And that is a materialistic trend, socialistic trend, liberalistic trend. If I belong to that major trend, I can survive, I can prosper. Maybe this is history.
자, 이렇기 때문에 이런 관점에서 그럼 토일교는 뭐라는 편에 토일교는 어떤 정견을 그래야 돼? 토일교는
Then we come to realize what Unification Church is amidst this picture.
기독교의 대표적인 모든 전통을 혁신해가지고 세월은 차원으로서 이것을 양식시킬 수 있는 내용을 갖고 있다. 이게 사람들이에요.
But the Unification Church now, its members based on its ideas and centered on parents. Now, Unification Church is capable of digesting this in the shortest period of time and then do through action and through the meticulous blueprint that it can jump not only himself but bring the whole society and elevate that into the higher level by jumping.
기독교 전통적 사상을 새로운 차원에 비약시킬 수 있는 내용을 나왔다. 이게 문제예요. 이게.
In other words,
공산당은 큰 일이다.
In other words, Unification Church is capable of transferring this old and the inundated, old and powerless the Christian doctrine, bring to this into life again, to revive it to the vigor, such an incredible strength, and with that can bring the Christianity into the highest level that they could not even dream of. This is what Unification Church can do now.
공산주의라는 이름을 치부치고 나옵니다.
Man of that capability.
그러네요.
So we have not only that, but also we have those formidable weapon by which we can blow the communistic ideology, shatter that into pieces overnight. We have that power.
청선원 율락을 전부 다 이거 지금까지 선언에 세계 전락에서 전부 다 대표적인 환경을 만들고 급진적을 전환시켜 가지고 이 태폐 사상, 율락 이 모든 사상을 일상할 수 있다.
We are also capable of examine and we can just clarify. We can just sweep out, wipe out all these immoral trends. We can teach them why this is deadly. We can prove and we can say that. We have that capability.
그런데 이 털결에는 뭐 무서우냐면 말이야. 좌익 사상가서 자꾸 넘어온다. 그리고 젊은 사람들이 전부 다 종교를 싫어하는 사람들은 돌아간다. 그러니까 종교를 믿는 사람은 말할 것 없이. 이것은 역사의 종말 시대에 공산당으로 볼 때는 신기하고도 이것은 참 무서운 거예요.
This is one thing the communists are really afraid, and they didn't quite expect this happen. They are really afraid of what this new movement can do. And here, not only the likely Christians or likely religious young people joined this new movement, but also who were non-religious, who didn't actually have anything to do with religion. And also the one who has been liberal trend for communistic thinking. There's no way that liberal thinking can come to this way. It just is not the law of the nature. But with this powerful doctrine, about powerful the content, we are able to transfer this old and powerless the doctrine of Christianity into the new and very powerful one, enough to bring this up to the different level. Actually, this is taking place, and communists see this. They don't understand how this works, but it works, and this is what's happening now. To them, it's a great problem.
이건 일대 공산세계의 위협 중에 이상 위협이 없는 단체로서 보지 않을 수 없다.
We can see so clearly even now ourselves that the communists have been building something. Let's say the building, such a building. But now we just take a few the weak places in the foundation, and then the whole building is about to crumble down. They know it. What they have accomplished in over 50 years of toil, now there's some new forces coming out and very easily, very casually, just rule this out and bring this down. To them, this is a really formidable
한국이라든가
emergence.
일본에서는 공산당이 완전히 우리 때문에 뭐가지 내고 이제 완전히 망할 들어갔더니 공인들 산수로 들어온다. 얼마나 위험한지. 아시아에 있어서의 한국과 일본을 자유세계에서 경제권을 가진 일본을 자기의 공산화시키는 제일 좋은 미끼로 왔더니 완전히 털게 뺏겨버렸어요. 미국이 그런 단계로 간다. 자유세계에 그런 단계로 간다.
Unified Church now is not talking about today. We've been talking about from the 20 years ago that Korea was the same way. Korea, all the communistic thinking, liberal thinking was no exception, was all there. But then when we got on the work of VOC activity, this was cleanly solved. Like Japan, for instance. Japan, the communists was illegal and they were fashion, they were everywhere. But then only starting from one man and a handful of cop groups at the time, today the communists, we have a clear dominance over the communistic thinking. They cannot face us front to front. It's just a complete 180 degree divergence. This is seeing that they see in America the similar thing is already happening, and that's why the communists are so afraid, more afraid than we think they are afraid of us.
그러한 것을 아는 공산주의 레브런문이 미국에 있기 때문에 공산주의자들이 제일 최고의 기간을 통해서 이것이 일어나기 전에 없애버려야겠다 운동해야 된다.
Mastermind. Ordinary person may not know, but the one on top knows. And then what is their goal? Then, oh, Reverend Moon, so long as he's here, America will be effectively converted into his line. So their goal is to eliminate, to make the Reverend Moon leave this country. Just eliminate this country. They exterminate from this country. And then they think they have a hope of theirs.
자기에 있는 모든 귀한 기관을 몽땅 움직여 그 언론계와 대학가의 학자들을 통해서 공세를 취하는 거예요. 그밖에 없다는 거예요.
But in a practical sense, the practical weapon that they can use is a tool they can use is media and scholars. The scholastic trends they can use and the media they can use. So they have been attacking Reverend Moon, his movement through media. Some media know, some media didn't know, but they all joined in denouncing Reverend Moon because that was fashionable.
그래가지고 닉슨 시대로부터 이 카터 시대가 지금까지 오면서 미국의 영향을 점점 제가 지금 와가지고 이제 법정 투쟁하면서 리버는 배후를 쪄가지고 언론계가 이것이 전부 다 언론계를 조직해가지고 공산세계 언론계가 이제는 문제시해가지고 이게 문제 컸다기야. 워싱턴 타임 만들고 세계 언론인 대회를 만들고 팩트 파운딩 투어를 하고 이런 모든 활동이 이건 공산당 세계에서는 이건 언론계가 완전히 내부는 산화줄 갈 수 있는 이런 데기 때문에 극단적인 위협을 느낀다는 것 같은 거예요.
Father knew that, of course, and even while we didn't know, we were engaged in this media activity and balanced this out. Now, Father made this trend move different direction drastically, like organized conference and organized a fact-finding tour. Just gather these hundreds and so 100, 200, 300, all these media people and the elite media people out, editors, and bring them to the scenes of dispute. With their own eyes, they saw what was being developed, which they wouldn't have believed by reading other people write without him seeing directly. So they come to aware. Now they come to be aware of the danger of a media and how they have been led to believe of comfort without ground.
11년도 미국
They began
오자마자
to do something now.
미국 오자마자 직결탄 내리는 거야.
So fathers did this from the very first day father came.
미국 역사에 그런 일이 없는 거야. 오자마자 내 공산당이 맞붙어갔어.
Father came without any prelude, without any introduction. The first thing father did was started tackling with fighting against communism. First word father uttered in this country, first plan father made in this country is how to cope with this communism, stop them.
별의별 없는 날 그저 뭐 불행하시고 뭐 제일 나쁜다 치고 치고 별의별 세상에 나쁜 말 다 하겠다. 자기들이 한 것을 전부 내가 하는 것을 전부 뒤져서 했지만은 그러한 악조건 그런 악선론 가운데서 이것이 보통 것은 없어지고 나올 텐데 자꾸 나왔다 자꾸.
And immediately this media, communistic media, came in and say brainwashing. That's the first term it introduced. But just to some extent, until now, pretty successful, because everybody believe in kind of, although they don't know what it is. They just twisted the whole thing. Father is doing God's work, but then they say the Father is doing the devil's work. That kind of way. Completely deviate, completely. That's the typical way of working the workings of communism. Americans will never understand. How if they say it's 100, there must be one, but there's not even one, but they say 100. That kind of way. This complete, how to say, it's too much of a exaggeration, so that the people just refuse to believe in that. They think there was some truth in it, that kind of way. This is typical communistic way. Every bad words, they gave it to Father. But then on the contrary, in the reality, it's like a black and white. They call white black.
나 이렇게 볼 때 공산주의와 이게 대치하고 극단적인 대치할 수 있는 입장에 전부 다 정부도 정부가 자유끼리 하나 돼가지고 종교 탄압하는 결과 시점을 가져가지고 이제는 종교인들이 여기 항의할 수 없는 몰락지점에 딱 들어가지고 레버럼 사건 같은 법정 투쟁 사건이 이것이 대부분 결정된 문제가 이것이 기독교에 비해서